Zohran Mamdani is being hailed as the savior of the Democratic Party, but he's also become something of a new bête noire for the Republicans. I do think the Republicans should be careful just calling him a commie or a socialist. They may be missing the point here in the same way that the Democrats missed the point about the Tea Party. In fact, some new polling suggests that Mamdani may be more akin to the standard bearer on the right, one President Donald Trump, than anyone thought, at least when it comes to New York City voters. Voters in the Big Apple weirdly see Donald Trump and Zohran Mamdani in the same light in terms of being dynamic leaders. Look at this poll from WIC, featured on Two-Way. It's nearly a tie in how New Yorkers see Trump and Mamdani. And they're also nearly tied when polled on favorability among New Yorkers, proving that Mamdani may be something of a Trump-sized force on the left that the right is really underestimating. With us now is Cliff Young, Ipsos Public Affairs President. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. So tell us a little bit about what you learned from this poll. You said there's nothing surprising there to you. Tell us more.
Yeah, whether it be this poll or polling in general, I think he really is a canary in the coal mine. I think he's suggestive of a thread or a potential movement on the Democratic side. And I think we should understand Trump and Mamdani as two sides of the same coin. Before Mamdani, there was Bernie Sanders. And even in 2016, what we found was really they represented sort of solutions to the same problem, but maybe with different flavors. What's basically the problem? Basically, the widespread belief that the system is broken, the system no longer works for the average person, it's rigged by the elite, and there's a need for a strong leader to take the country back. That sounds very familiar, right? It's something we've been tracking at Ipsos over the last 10 years, and Mamdani really represents the left's answer to that. Now, the caveat is it's less about cultural issues like on the right, and much more about economic populism, as we can see with the rhetoric and the policies and how he's sort of framing things. But ultimately, he's a solution to a broken system.
So you really see this as the direction that the Democratic Party writ large is going to be headed in?
Maybe, right? I think we should understand that they came out of 2024 sort of discombobulated. They lost. It always happens with the party that ultimately loses the general elections. This year is a year of experimentation. They're experimenting with different candidates and different messages, and you see ultimately what works at the ballot box. So he is one possible solution. But importantly, he's at least aligned with some of the most important issues for the base, and those are kind of bread and butter issues, making ends meet, basically issues of inequality and injustice, and he represents that thread.
So speaking of there being different threads, I want to play you Rahm Emanuel on Megyn Kelly, because I think this represents one of the other threads that we're seeing in the Democratic Party. Let's play that.
Can a man become a woman?
Can a man become a woman? No.
Thank you.
No.
That's so easy. Why don't more people in your party just say that?
Because I'm now going to go into a witness protection plan.
So is it really Mamdani v. Rahm? You know, Mamdani on the one hand, both culturally and economically representing really the far left and gaining in popularity. On the other hand, Rahm Emanuel kind of planting that flag in the ground and saying, you know, I'm going to be the centrist, the normie. Is that accurate? And what shot does someone like Rahm have to do that, to say, no, there's still a center of this party that can say, you know, a woman is a woman?
Well, if you could split the difference, you probably have the perfect candidate, because on the one hand, Mamdani represents that solution to a broken system. We talked about that. But Rahm Emanuel represents sort of the more conservative thread, even in the Democratic Party, that, listen, while we support public opinion, supports in general trans rights, in general, they have qualifications. Like a biological man shouldn't compete against a biological woman in sports, as an example. The Democrats diverged a lot in 2024. That's one of the reasons they lost. It wasn't the primary reason why they lost, but it was a reason. So Emanuel represents an alignment with much more where the average American is today.
So the perfect Democratic candidate, you're saying, is somewhere halfway between the two of them?
Basically, the system is broken, but a little bit of conservatism, too. That's the perfect candidate on either side today.
Okay. Before we were talking, I said to you, what is the most surprising poll number that you heard recently? And you told me something very interesting. What was it?
Well, basically, we just got data out of the field on the Epstein case, and asked a series of questions. We were expecting maybe a political angle to it, and what we find is it's a pox on all your houses. 65% or more of Americans are concerned with it. They're also critical in general. And it really goes, once again, to this notion that the system is broken, the elites are colluding, the elites are lying to America. Obviously, as it unfolds, it might take on more of a political dimension. It might be more negative to Trump. But today, right now, it's really, really all of you. We should throw all of you ultimately in the gutter.
So, but they're not holding it against Trump.
Not right now.
Not more than anybody else.
Not more than anywhere else. There's a little bit of noise on the Republican side with the base. We can see that in the numbers. But right now, it's really a pox in all your houses.
Thank you so much. It's fascinating.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Cliff.